Democrats want to play a game of Are You Smarter Than a Republican? Jasmine, not to be confused with Davy Crockett, says she'll take on the best.
When you bring up the idiot known as Elon Musk, he knows how to hire smart people, but don't conflate that and believe that he is the genius, because he ain't. It says a lot when you literally are supposed to be the leader of the free world and you're worried about a rising sophomore in the House.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Or you wish she was on your side. He also called you low IQ. I'm sure you're aware of that. Would you be willing to take an IQ test publicly, head-to-head against the President of the United States?
Absolutely.
Jazzy said she'd win a battle of wits with DJT, and Musk ain't a genius. Where'd she get her confidence?
I actually wanted to be an anesthesiologist. So I've always been really good at math and science, but I didn't want to talk to people.
You wanted to put people to sleep, and you kind of are doing the opposite thing now.
Yes, I want them to be woke now.
Democrats like Crockett keep telling us how smart they are. But where's the proof? What's one good idea Democrats have had in the last 20 years? Name one. They're great at telling other people what to do, but why does anyone listen? The people telling you what to do have never done a thing, and it's starting to sink in.
Lowest net favorable rating since the 90s. What do you think's driving that? Why are Democrats so relatively unpopular?
A sense that Democrats were cultural elites, on how they talked, issues they cared about, all the DEI programs. And so essentially, I think the vast majority, a lot of people in America in the middle of the country thought Democrats were looking down on them.
Yeah.
And they weren't competent to govern.
There's another word for that: snobs. We live in a representative republic. Politicians are at least supposed to pretend to represent the people. The country says, we don't want DEI. Democrats say, yeah, you do. The country says, we don't want gay porn in kindergarten. And the Democrats went to the Supreme Court and said, yeah, you do.
Pride Puppy was the book that was used for the pre-kindergarten curriculum. That's no longer in the curriculum.
That's the one where they are supposed to look for the leather and things and bondage, things like that.
It's not bondage. It's a woman in a leather.
Sex worker, right?
No, that's not correct. No.
Gosh, I read it.
It's a drag queen.
Drag queen and drag queen.
Drag queen. Imagine going all the way to the Supreme Court to demand drag queens in kindergarten. Catholic parents, Jews, Muslim parents all said no. But Democrats said, hey, we're going to teach your 6-year-old about gay sex, whether you like it or not. The country in a landslide election said, we don't want boys in girls' locker rooms. And Democrats said, you're all bigots, and we'll see you in court.
I'd like to announce that I'm suing the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, and the United States Department of Justice. Here is the opening line of our lawsuit. Minnesota brings this lawsuit to stop President Trump and his administration from bullying vulnerable children in this state. We will not participate in this shameful bullying.
Tampons AG is taking Trump to court, so high school girls have to shower with boys. This is the party who said, believe all women. And all women said, get these guys out of the showers, they're creeping us out. This is the party that said college boys, before they kiss their girlfriends, have to ask for consent. And now they're saying boys can just waltz into the girls' locker room, strip down, and no doesn't mean no. These snobs think they know better than the president, and not just Trump. A new report in the New York Times says Joe Biden didn't want men playing in women's sports. But Susan Rice told him, yeah, you do. Guess who won that debate? Not Joe. Susan Rice overruled the president of the United States. These snobs told you you were a gullible rube if you thought Joe Biden was lost in an Italian field. He was just going to go shake some hands of the parachuters. You've probably never even been to Italy, you country bumpkin. You don't even know how it is there. Not an iota of shame is entered into their brain. A CNN journalist asked a new media journalist who just got credentialed to the White House this. Listen.
You don't deserve to be here because you're not a real journalist.
What's your response to them?
Well, I'm pretty sure the group of people in there spent, 4 years covering for someone who was essentially dead, and that's being charitable in my description of him, a president by the name of Joe Biden. So to all those people who are apoplectic over having new media voices, you guys failed, and that's why we're here.
CNN journalists are so fixated on their title that you never realize other people were doing your job and doing it better. The only real credential for a journalist is honesty. Just because you have a CNN business card doesn't make you a journalist. It just means you work for CNN. Snobs are obsessed with status. Journalists are obsessed with truth. Jake Tapper, about to release a book about the Joe Biden cover-up. Jake Tapper, he's acting like he discovered the cover-up, even though the whole country knew about it while he was denying it. We finally have a president who's alive, and these snobs say the president's just better off dead.
Did you like the 4 years of auto pen? Did you like the 11?
Yeah, actually, the markets did, the economy did. Yes, actually.
No one's
yes.
wages went up,
okay.
And you had 11 million illegal aliens come into this country.
Yep.
I know that's okay with you, but you're worried about this one going back. The rule of law was
I am worried about the rule of law.
Yeah,
yep.
But not for 11 million. Not for, they totally ignored the rule of law coming here. Now you're talking about it again.
The snobs love a dead president or semi-dead president because it makes them feel smarter and more powerful. And they can tell the president what to do and he can't say no. The snobs loved it when the stock market controlled the White House. And now the executive producer of 60 Minutes is quitting because he's demanding total control. He's saying, we want to lie about Trump every Sunday at 7. And the Paramount chairman is like, not great for business. 60 Minutes has been sued by Trump for being unfair, and CBS has a deal that needs Trump's approval to go through. So the 60 Minutes chief was fighting back tears, saying he did nothing wrong. Grown men in the media are crying and won't admit they tossed softballs to Kamala. Guy's a real drama queen. He thinks the country wants to hear Trump hoaxes all fall after football. The country voted and said Trump's not Hitler. But these arrogant peacocks say, we don't know history.
Do we wait until he's Hitler? At what point do you say this guy is a threat to whatever? I'm going to quote the great Barney Fife. Nip it in the bud. That's what I say. Nip it in the bud. Don't wait.
First, Carville says Democrats should play dead. Now he says Trump should be dead. Carville's telling you to do one thing one day, the next day it's the exact opposite. If this guy was your doctor, your trainer, your financial advisor, you'd fire him. You'd think he was crazy. But he's a political strategist, so you're like, oh, okay. Hollywood says the country's just racist.
America made a decision that I strongly disagree with, and it seems that we are reaping the whirlwind right now. Oh, he's a bigot, so. It's a belief that there's a hierarchy of racial groups and that his group is superior, genetically superior. He believes that. Right. Whenever he talks about competence and qualifications, any white man will do for him.
More minorities voted for Trump than any other Republican in 20 years. But John Legend is so insightful. All these blacks and Hispanics were tricked. They were duped by a white supremacist president. If only they had the emotional antenna of John Legend, a singer. Snobs usually traffic in the superficial and can't see who people really are and what really motivates them. Most of the country has a connection to Trump that goes much deeper than race. They trust him. They trust his track record, and they trust his vision for the country because he believes that they love him as much as he loves them.
But among those who voted for Donald Trump, they're going to back him no matter what happens. If the markets go down, they should have gone down. They were too high priced. If countries stop doing business with us, it doesn't matter because we shouldn't be doing business with them. That the Trump voters are willing to justify just about anything that Donald Trump does because they are truly loyalists. And I've never seen anything like this in my political career, that kind of commitment to a president, even in bad times. Those who voted for him are still behind him, and they will justify just about anything.
The president doesn't talk down to the country. He gained their respect because he punched the snobs in the face. and gave the American people license to live their lives without being nagged, censured, and disrespected. Democrats thought they could just talk at you and win you over. Trump talks to you, and he listens. And even after a shellacking, Democrats don't want to talk to you.
I don't really talk to people who voted for Donald Trump. Like, I don't need to talk to them, because if we look at the last election, 90 million eligible voters did not vote. That's a whole lot of people that we can reach.
I think you should talk to people who voted for Trump. And the reason I think you should is because then you'll understand the why. And I think that's where Democrats just simply
That's
failed.
fair. Yes.
They didn't know, they couldn't understand the why.
So remember when Newsom told Tampon we need to understand the other half of America, and Tampon said, no, we don't. They should just go and crawl under a rock. Tampon was supposed to win the Heartland, and he just told the Heartland he's better than you. George Clooney has some more advice for Democrats after his last act in politics gave birth to Kamala. George is now telling Democrats they need better representatives with a sense of humor and purpose against charismatic Trump. Clooney's basically saying Democrat politicians need to be more like him. And if Clooney thinks he can be president, why doesn't he run? Actors, singers, lawyers, CNN, Tampon, they all know better. When the voters tell them something, they just sue. Wannabe anesthesiologist says the pioneer who's putting men on Mars is an idiot. It's comfortable to be a critic when you have no skin in the game. What many of these snobs don't get is that we're watching them take an IQ test every day. And every day, we see the score.
But we begin tonight with a question. What have elected Democrats, what have they done for you at all, if not lately? Anything? Have they improved your schools? Did they lower your taxes? Did they bring down costs? Did they secure your border? Did they make your country more safe and more secure? Did they put your Social Security, hard-earned money in the lockbox like they promised? Or did they squander your hard-earned tax dollars? Are they robbing your children of their future with nearly $40 trillion in debt? Oh, how's that Obamacare thing working out for you and your family? Did they lift a finger to make any of your lives better? We all know the answer. Of course not. But just look at the effort, the resources they're putting into people that are not American citizens. Just today, delegation, Democrats traveled to Louisiana. In this case, they are begging and pleading for the release of 2 international students that are fighting deportation. Take a look.
When those constitutional protections are eroded, the protections of all of us are eroded.
There's no evidence of finding. There's no evidence of criminal wrongdoing. They've been convicted of no crime. They were just living their lives and making positive contributions in society every single day.
This is not about enforcing the law. This is moving us toward an authoritarian state.
It could be you tomorrow for suffering a miscarriage. It could be you tomorrow for reading a banned book. It could be you tomorrow for practicing diversity, equity, and inclusion. It could be you tomorrow for exercising free speech.
Unless Congress and unless the American people stand up and push back, they will succeed. They will succeed in destroying our democracy. They will succeed in destroying what people all around the world admire about the United States of America.
I reject this draconian vision for this country that Donald Trump has. He is a dictator. And the only way to beat a dictator is with defiance.
All right, this is your modern, radical, extreme Democratic Party. They are literally fighting for the rights of people that are designated gang members. They are, in this case, both international students ordered back to their home countries after the State Department accused them of fomenting anti-American and anti-Semitic rage. In particular, Mahmoud Khalil played a prominent role in the disruptive riots at Columbia University that began right after the October 7th attack. Now, Democrats, this is their next cause celeb. They want him released back into our country to continue his activism. One has to wonder if they even know that Hamas is a designated terrorist organization. Their own charter calls for the destruction of Israel. Now, these same Democrats have never traveled to the Middle East to demand the release of American citizens still being held hostage by Hamas. And these pro-Hamas students, of course, they are now the cause celeb. We saw the same thing with the suspected gang member, wife beater, illegal immigrant, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, Chris Van Hollen. 4 other Democrats. They're traveling all the way to El Salvador for this person. This is what is at the top of their list. But none of them, and we've looked deeply, we cannot find one of them that bothered to pick up a phone and call the family of Maryland, mother of 5, Rachel Morin, or Kayla Hamilton, both Marylanders who were raped and murdered by illegal immigrants from El Salvador. Now, Van Hollen, after a lot of criticism about this, was shamed into releasing a minor short statement about another Maryland mother who was murdered by an illegal immigrant, but then spent the rest of the day, on X, tweeting out about his new BFF, the suspected gang member, human trafficker, wife beater, and illegal immigrant. Apparently, the American people just aren't a top priority for Democrats. And here's yet another example. Democrats in California have granted early release to an illegal immigrant. A guy driving 100 miles an hour, drunk, high, wasted, slammed into a car, killed 2 19-year-olds, burning them alive. Now, thankfully, the Trump administration has just filed felony charges against this illegal immigrant to prevent his release back into the U.S. Meanwhile, in New Mexico, the state Supreme Court just barred a judge from the bench after an alleged Tren de Aragua gang member was arrested at his home. By the way, can you believe all of this is happening in your country? What did I say? Biden, Kamala Harris, Mayorkas, they all have blood on their hands. They allowed this to happen and then lied to all of you for 4 years. Take a look at your screen. The judge was pictured with his arms around the suspected gang member who entered our country illegally under Biden and Harris in 2023 and then in New York City. Thanks to Biden's wide open borders, well, there are so many violent illegal immigrants inside our country that a rival gang to Tren de Aragua has already formed and is now committing a series of chilling crimes in that city. So far, 27 have been indicted on sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and firearms charges. But they are not the only violent offenders who have been roaming the streets. Now, this has been going on for years, and thanks to the Democrats' open borders policy, or their silence and their outright lying about what's been going on the last 4 years. Look at the headline, New York Post, quote, Trump's mass deportation raids result in a 655% spike in arrests of terrorists roaming the U.S., including one of India's most wanted. Now, if we can somehow avoid a large-scale terror attack inside the United States in the next few years, it will be thanks to Donald Trump's tough action on immigration. If it does happen, that's more blood on Kamala's hands, Biden's hands, and Mayorkas' hands. And frankly, the Democrats that also lied to us. If Democrats were still in power, almost none of these terrorist gang members would be deported. And more would likely be pouring in every single day, day in and day out. This is your new radicalized Democratic Party, putting America and your life last every single day.
Remember him? Yeah, neither does he. According to the New York Times, Biden himself was against trans athletes competing against women. Quote, there are administration officials who believe that some transgender athletes would enjoy unfair physical advantages over women. One of the officials was Biden himself. So even as demented as he was, he could still tell boys from girls. All it takes, of course, is a sniff. Of course, Joe didn't say anything while in office, perhaps because he needed Rachel Levine on the White House softball team. Adorable. So you think the remaining Democrats might learn from the party's mistake? Well, you thought wrong. Politico just published a profile of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, and what a profile it was. They kissed his ample ass for 2,000 words, one for each pound. Damn. J.B. Pritzker, more like B.J. Pritzker. And right off the bat, the governor says, hey, stop picking on trans kids. So who is he talking to? Parents? Concerned relatives? Who knows? Maybe Pritzker himself is gender confused because he hasn't seen his own since he was 10. Or he's building an alliance between the obese and the gender confused. Or as I call it, the trans fats. But let's be clear, there's no epidemic of trans kid bullying, because how many trans kids exist? It's a phrase created by activists and accepted by a meek and lazy media. Pritzker then parrots another trans talking point, that trans kids are most likely to commit suicide, a stat thrown around like a rhetorical grenade, but one that lacks a key ingredient, truth. To buy that, you'd have to be as dishonest as Jesse's hairstylist. It's a phony stat made to demonize parents who refuse to give in to pressure from activists cosplaying as therapists. The gist, if you don't lop off your kid's nuts, he'll kill himself later. This is false. Kids indoctrinated into this cult of delusion actually end up worse off than before. As a recent study found, trans surgeries boost the risk of mental health conditions and suicidal ideations. And gender dysphoria patients experience heightened psychological distress 2 years after surgery. You don't hear that on CNN. But the left stirs up gender confusion, then offers dangerous drugs and surgical butchery to fix it. That's like promoting weight loss, then treating it with donuts. But while Pritzker remains beached on Bud Light Island, the rest of the world paddles back to sanity. In what may be the most shocking thing to emerge from England since Piers Morgan's sex tape, the UK Supreme Court just ruled that trans women aren't women. And now even Prime Minister Keir Starmer admits that biological sex is in fact real. Yeah, you know, the lesson we all learned in 3rd grade, you know, when we first caught a glimpse of the school nurse. That Mr. Burkholz was something else. Great tits. So Pritzker is fast becoming an island to himself, though a more accurate term would be continent. In America, a doctor was fired for saying men shouldn't compete in women's sports. Now, just got a big settlement. And why? Because he was right. You can't fool Mother Nature, even if you insist she has a beard and a boner. New York Times poll found that 79% of Americans, including 67% of Dems, believe trans athletes should be banned from women's sports. Even if it would turn the WNBA into something watchable. It's clear the public is fed up watching their daughters lose medals, scholarships, and privacy, all in the name of a woke delusion. Yet here we are in 2025, and Pritzker is acting like it's 2015, when it was cool to bury your head up your ass, especially if you had as much room as he did. It's yet more proof the Dems still cannot figure out who they are. Turns out it's them and not the kids who are confused. If only there was a surgery to turn them into Republicans. She's both Snow White and a dwarf. Co-host of American Airs is new room at the 5, and author of the new book, I Wish I Had Someone That Told Me That For You. He's the reason they lock up Mountain Dew at Walgreens. Comedian Adam Hunter. In Spanish, her last name means happy hour. Fox News anchor Julie Banderas. And he goes to the big and tall section at the big and tall store. New York Times best-selling author, comedian, former Debbie Cyrus. Dana, congratulations on the new book. I've already read it. It's stupendous. Wow. If I ever wanted to create silence, I'll just repeat that wherever I go. Thought my mic died or something. So we'll just move on from that awkward moment. Imagine if Joe had actually had a spine at the time and spoke out. Maybe he would still be the nominee. I doubt it, but...
It's a mystery why people think somebody else was pulling the strings at the White House.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And he was like, and remember, Corinne Jean-Pierre, I love that joke about the Pride Parade, by the way. But I remember she was standing at the White House podium, and she said, "Yes, Joe Biden is running circles behind us at the White House." And
yes.
Wow, is he beating you?
Yeah.
Okay. The Pritzker thing is kind of interesting. So all of this is being, he is surfacing and getting media attention, and it's like a trial balloon, right? Mm-hmm. But with him, it's more like a lead balloon. Like it's
definitely a balloon.
It's not going to work, right? He's going to fall right over. And then he says that he doesn't believe that transgender males would be able to beat women because he wouldn't either.
Yes, that is science.
That is just true. That is good. He's a very, very liberal guy.
Yeah.
Like, get to know him. His progressive policies make some people's look downright centrist.
Yeah, no, there's something creepy about him, and I'm not fat phobic. I'm just afraid he might eat me, Adam. That's not being fat phobic. I just have a fear of being eaten. I'm a very small person. I get stuck in Tyrus's teeth. Trust me.
He's quick, though.
Yes. Adam, what do you make of this? How the UK is coming to terms with reality, but America still has people like Pritzker.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy. It's only the UK can come up with dentists. But no, I mean, look, I think as far as trans athletes, we should just go to the expert, like Caitlyn Jenner. Because, no, I mean, Caitlyn was the best male athlete, and now she's saying that they have an advantage.
Right.
And by the way, she's running for governor of California. I'm going to vote because finally someone with balls.
Yeah.
But
that should be her slogan. That should be her slogan.
But look, Trump is banning trans people from the military. So once again, we're losing our privates.
That's good.
Is it? Is it good? They're like, I can't tell if they're like fortune cookie with riddles or what. But I still like them.
I like them.
I'm always hungry after I hear them. So, Julie, always a pleasure to see you.
Sure.
Silent.
Don't believe a word he says.
Interesting. You know, Biden could have taken a stance, and he didn't. For women.
Yeah.
He hates women, doesn't he?
Well, he only likes Jill.
Yes.
I don't even think Jill likes him.
Yeah.
She made him stay in the White House. That's the only reason why he was there for the last 2 years. He would have bailed out. But Pritzker, I just got to go back to this whole trans situation because the majority of the country definitely does believe that trans women should not be playing against biological women. And Congresswoman Mary Miller is actually trying to introduce legislation where there would be a federal investigation as to whether or not trans women can play against trans women can play against biological women. I think bottom line is this country is sick and tired of this whole trans situation. It's not about whether you're against trans. That's not what this is about. It's about fairness. Everybody agrees it's unfair for trans women to play against biological, and the Democratic Party just needs to move on and realize that this is all about what you were born with. The gender identity is about birth, not about, choice.
Exactly. Tyrus, I mean, you could conceivably identify as a woman.
Why on?
I mean, if you wanted to.
Yeah,
and
just
you could
take away my accountability and honor and truth-telling, facts. Spend my whole life asking him if my ass is getting big. No, I'm good.
No.
Hi, Dana.
Hi.
Are you sick of having to use the terms that they give us, whether it's trans kids, transgender women, it's men claiming they're women.
Men.
Just do that.
It's bad acting young men.
Yeah.
Who are confused and probably we know they spent hours upon hours upon hours on the internet and probably looking at a lot of porn sites and just getting unrealistic, and it's a real problem. And then you have to keep asking yourself, these are smart politicians. They wouldn't, he's a billionaire. He knows how to get things done. He also knows how to find food. So we know that he's able to, he's an intelligent man. So you have to, I always say, how come for? Why such planting the flag on this thing? Because this is what their core value is the smoke screen problem. It used to be white men. In the beginning part of the pandemic, it was white men are all the problems for everything, and I actually enjoyed that a little bit. But and then now it's another thing where they say these trans kids, and and what do these poor trans kids have to deal with? The evil society. Their suicide rate is high. They can't do it. But we're not seeing any of this stuff. So I always go back to the same thing, and I feel like it's a broken record. How much money are you making off this issue? How much of our funding is going to this issue? Because it makes zero sense for any person within, even to have this argument. I could sit down, and as a matter of fact, if I sat down 2 5-year-olds, a 5-year-old little boy and a 5-year-old little girl, and I was like, how many genders are there? And they'll be like,
yeah,
she's a girl, ew, and I'm a boy.
Yeah.
And then the little girl will be like, I'm a girl, and boys drool. You know, they know. Like, this isn't hard. So you have to ask yourself, why are these educated, financially successful people doing it? Obviously, there's a way for them to make some money.
Yeah, and you think about, we got to go. I would love to hear from a doctor who performs these surgeries. Like, how did you end up in this specific thing, experimenting on kids? I'm curious, like, how do you decide to do that? And why? And I'm always thinking they were probably the worst med student, and it was the only thing left.
But Greg, it's not with, I know we got to go, but it's not with kids, but look how many people will bring these women in for plastic surgery, and they know they have no skin left on their face at all. They'll still do it.
Yeah, no, it's like, why is JB dying on this hill? But then he would die on any hill.
Thank you. Exit on that beautiful joke. The Dems' new love affair next.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.